So the newest version of the GTA 6 mapping project is here, and there are a lot of cool changes. I'm gonna do a deep dive at some of them to explain the process and what goes into these changes. My name is Saukko, and I helped the creation of the GTA 6 mapping project. Let's start with Bgal Horn. The prison in southern Bgal Horn was adjusted and corrected. It should now be in a better position and should be the correct size. Then Starlet Motel and its surroundings were adjusted. Starlet Motel itself became smaller on the map. Then a barrier island was added to Bgal Horn, as we see a tiny small speck of it here in the postcard. And the refineries seen in the postcard were adjusted in northern Bgal Horn. Then, mountains. RLX, who basically does all of our technical triangulation stuff and is basically the backbone of the mapping project, created these rough 3D models of the mountains we see in the game. These match pretty good, and we even know their heights. Of course, we don't know what is behind the mountains or how deep they go behind them. We only know what is on the south side of them. So the main mountain moved a bit more north, while the hills or the mountains, the west side, moved a bit more south. And of course, we still don't know where Mount Calaga itself is, and it's not part of these 3D models. So there will be more mountains. So Lake Leonida and Ambrosia with it moved a bit north. We have moved Ambrosia previously, but as the math and methods we use improve, the location becomes more accurate. Most of the work on this change was made by RLX. He made a post on the GTA forums about all the things that went into this change. So if you want to read it for yourself, you can find it in the description. But I'll try to summarize it here the best I can. So basically previously, and probably why everything was wrong, is that we made some false assumptions. Like that Lake Leonida is at an elevation of about 5 meters, and elevation is important, as basically all of our triangulation is now 3-dimensional instead of 2-dimensional. So basically RLX creates wireframes of the structures or triangulates several points, like all 4 of the corners of a building, in order to determine its accurate location in all 3 dimensions, X, Y, and Z. So we even know the accurate height of things. But now, with some improved techniques and methods, RLX was able to find a good location for Ambrosia and Lake Leonida. Of course, all of this is based on the 4 screenshots we have from Ambrosia. Some of the things we see outside Ambrosia in the screenshots, like the Pocamar Bridge in Bgal Horn, the tall radio tower in Homestead, and the ATC towers at the airport, and a lot of other things. There are some techniques that are vital for the process. RLX placed yellow vertical lines on the screenshots to help with determining the FOV of the screenshots, as also we have to know the FOV in order to determine where the camera is. But basically all the things that are vertical in the game should be aligned with these lines, and if they are not, we determine the FOV is gonna be wrong. And with this method, the FOV and location we had for the screenshot previously in the version 13 of the map, it had a too high of an FOV. Then we can use objects which have a known size to determine their elevation in game. For example, in the panorama screenshot, RLX used a box wheel, for which we have a known length from GTA 5. Cylinders are also very useful, like some of the silos we see in the sugar refinery, as they are always round, and if we know the lines towards the edges of the silos, we also know the line towards the center point. Here is some more technical explanation, but basically silos are good. And then of course, RLX has a find camera script, which basically determines the most likely camera based on the things in the image and other limiting factors that have been set. For example, like that a specific thing, like a silo or a billboard, cannot be seen in the screenshot. So, one thing that we hadn't used was the smoke stack of the Wheelapator, which is this facility. We see it in this keys screenshot, and as we know the screenshot's accurate location, which I will explain later, we can shoot a ray from the keys screenshot towards the top of the smokestack. And as we also see the stack in the night screenshot, and with the help of all of the other landmarks, it looks like that the ground level in Ambrosia is at 15 meters, instead of the previously estimated 5 meters. Then we need to learn more things about this screenshot, as we can see the Pocamar Bridge on background. However, as we only currently have worked out possible options for the night screenshot, and all of the rays towards the sugar refinery from the night screenshot come from the right, it only helps us with the height of these smokestacks and factory, but not the location. So we first have to determine the Ambrosia postcard, and for that, RLX made a construction of the US flag silo, which is visible in both the postcard and the night screenshot. And then with the help of some sizes of vehicles and like people, RLX was able to determine a line on which the postcard camera is. Previously, as the postcard camera wasn't really attached to anything, which made everything in the screenshot the wrong scale. So with the old screenshot position, for example, the person in the screenshot was 3 meters tall. That's about 10 feet for Americans, which doesn't make any sense. But the new techniques and methods fix that. We can also make a construction of the lollipop water tower, as it is visible in the night screenshot, the fire screenshot, and the postcard. And with this information, RLX through some testing and tweaking was able to get the locations of the cameras, and with these locations, for the first time like ever, the Bgal bridge actually matches the image, and basically everything lines up. These, I think, are some of the best options for the cameras and camera rays, and some of the things we place on the map, and after some testing, this is the best final result, which is pretty neat. And of course, we are able to determine the location of this screenshot, as we know the elevation of the screenshot, because we know the accurate location of the silo, which is right next to the screenshot, and then RLX could use the billboards we see in the background, which are the same ones as here, to calibrate the orientation and location of the screenshot, which gives us the accurate location for the Ambrosia main street. So the background here is the old map, and the dots and lines overlaid are the new determined locations. For example, this line is the coastline of Lake Leonida. This is the location of the lollipop water tower. These lines are for some of the fields, and then of course we have a lot of factory smokestacks and factory buildings. Of course, the new screenshot locations match with the things we see in Vice City, the Bgal bridge, and other areas. Then a neat little thing that comes with the 15 meters of elevation is that this scene and this scene, which both are on a small hill, are actually on the same elevated area as Lake Leonida. So Lake Leonida and basically everything within a kilometer of it is at over 10 meters of elevation. This change also makes Ambrosia itself slightly bigger, as the lake moved more north than the sugar refinery, so there's more space in between them. Also, as Ambrosia is the heart of Leonida, based on this wording, it should be somewhere in the middle of the map. So the theoretical maximum height of Leonida has increased. Technically, as the heart of Leonida is now higher, so it's technically possible that the map could extend further up north. Then in Vice City, we made the Gambit Bay thinner. This change is based on the Underground League, in which we see Northern Vice Beach and parts of Northern Vice City from 60 meters underground. This of course gives more space for waiting sands to exist north of Vice City. Then we added the location of this clip onto the map. We basically already had it on the map, but now it's more detailed and marked as confirmed. It was basically confirmed by the Underground League anyways. The diamond hotels moved a bit to the west, and they were redesigned on the map. More buildings were added to the Venetian Islands, and Starfish Island was moved slightly to the west. The coast of Virginia Key was redesigned based on the port clip, and the port got some new greenery. Basically all of the skyscrapers once again slightly were adjusted in Vice City downtown, and all of the metroways were made thinner. In La Perle, Route 10 was twisted south to correspond with the TikTok league, and we added the 561 county road to the map, and we are pretty sure that it is the same one as the road going by this gas station. And some slight adjustments were made in Teguesta and near the airport. Then Kilento and rest of the keys. This area also got a pretty similar treatment to Ambrosia, as Kilento became a bit over 50 meters longer than it was before. The Bgal Horn key got bigger too, and the keys were stretched out a bit. There's a few very important changes on the keys themselves. So these keys size changes are once again made mostly by RLX, with the use of his triangulation tools. And once again, I'll just try to do my best to dumb down RLX's documentations, which of course you can find from the description. So the problem with all of the previous triangulations and projections and all of that, it always seemed that Jason's house, which we saw in the leaks, so we have accurate coordinates for it, didn't appear in the right position in the screenshots and trailer scenes. Basically, it was too much inland in Kilento. So the first step was to create a rough 3D model of Jason's house, so that we in general could see where it lands on the map and the images, so that we can be like visually sure sure that it's correct. And then also use the league coordinates in order to set up Jason's house as a known landmark at the correct position, which can then be used to calibrate the screenshot locations. And as we see the Hamlet water tower in the background, it is used to anchor the house in the correct location for it to be used as a known landmark. Then we used known landmarks to determine the trigger 1 scene, like the bridge and the blimp key, and the trigger 2 opening scene could be placed using Brian's marina and several other landmarks, and in it Jason's house started to appear in the right location. And then to backtrack a bit, as the Homestead water tower location is actually based on this screenshot, RLX basically had to repeat the process once again, determine where the water tower is, which moved a few meters, and then determine where Jason's house is, which moved only a few centimeters, which basically means that it is in a correct location. So yeah, basically some of our cameras were wrong because we had Jason's house in the wrong place, which then made the keys look a bit smaller than they were. And this also slightly affected mainland Leonida and the grass rivers as we see them in the screenshots. Then an unrelated change on Kilento, which is that we had the rusty anchor in the wrong location for over a year, so the bar where a lot of trigger 2 scenes take place. We generally just assumed that it would be where it is in real life in relation to Brian's marina, as they are basically next to each other in real life. So that would have been here on the map. But we noticed something weird. Where is this radio tower, like on this screenshot, as rusty anchor should be here? And like, we don't even see the building there and there's no opening there for it. And like the rusty anchor pier isn't here where it should be. Well, we can see the bridge that leads to the mainland on the background of this screenshot. And if we take a look at the bridge from Jason's house, which we see in trailer 2, we can see that the angle in relation to the bridge is different in both of them. And it looks like that the rusty anchor is closer to the bridge than Jason's house. And after a bit of trying to figure things out, we found out that this pier is the pier of the rusty anchor, which places the rusty anchor here on the map. And of course all of the surroundings do match, light poles in the background, the radio towers and such. So yeah, there are some mistakes on our map, even now after we fixed that one. This location also makes a lot of sense, as now while doing missions in the keys, the player has to drive a longer way in between the marina and the rusty anchor. And on the way, the player can actually just go to his home sometimes, as on the old layout he would just have been staying on Brian's marina all the time. The software that RLX made and uses to triangulate and determine things about the map is called GTA MapLib. It's linked in the description if you want to try to mess with it. Thank you for watching. Like the video, leave a comment, and of course subscribe to see more content about GTA 6. We are hopefully getting closer to trailer 3 and of course the release when I'll be playing the game. So, thank you.